Hello, everyone. Many people would say that Rob Halford or Judas Priest or Ronnie James Dio of Rainbow / Black Sabbath / Dio are the greatest metal vocals of all time, but in my opinion, the greatest metal vocalist of all time is no other than the American musician, singer, songwriter, actor, record producer, multi-instrumentalist, film composer, and alternative metal legend Mike Patton of Faith No More, Mr. Bungle, Phantasmus, Peeping Tom, and many other projects. Mike is one of the greatest metal vocalists of all time and one of the most influential musicians in the metal and rock world. Before we delve into why Mike is my number one metal vocalist of all time, I will give you a history of him. Patton was born and raised in Eureka, California. In the year of 1985, Patton formed Mr. Bungle in high school with a group of friends of his. In the late 80s, Mr. Bungle released some of the recordings on cassette tapes. Due to these recordings, members of the alternative metal band Faith No More approached Patton about becoming their lead singer. In 1989, Faith No More released their third album called The Real Thing, with Patton on vocals for the first time, and this album became very successful due to the release of their second single from that album, which is Epic. Due to the mainstream success of The Real Thing, Faith No More became established musicians in the music industry, and they could do anything now. The fact that they could do anything now gave Patton an opportunity to have his old high school band, Mr. Bungle, a chance to be signed to a major label, which is Warner Brothers. Mr. Bungle released their self-titled debut album in 1991, in which, even though it didn't gain any mainstream success due to the obvious niche nature of the music, the album did gain the band a cult following to them. Patton's Faith No More and Mr. Bungle musical projects would continue to release albums in the 90s until Faith No More would disband in 1998, and 2 years later, Mr. Bungle would disband as well. In 1998, Patton would form a metal supergroup known as Phantasmus, with fellow Mr. Bungle member, who is bassist Trevor Doane, vocalist / guitarist of the Melvins, who is King Buzzo, and former Slayer drummer Dave Lombardo. The group would release 4 studio albums. Patton would form another supergroup the following year, which will be the rock supergroup known as Tomahawk. Patton would form that group with the Jesus Lizard guitarist Dwan Dennison, Helmet drummer John Stainer, and Melvin's ex-Crows bassist Kevin Retmanis. From 2000 to 2007, he had an electronic rock band called Peeping Tom, which only had one album release for the band in 2006. The album was a collaboration album that he collaborated with musicians Rozelle, Dan the Automator, Kool Keith, Doze One, Nora Jones, Bell Gilberto, Massive Attack, Dub Trio, Gel, Odd Nosdom, Amon Tobin, Kid Koala, Mike Realm, Imani Coppola, Butterscotch, Rob Swift, DJ Z-Trip, DJ Quest, and DJ D-Sharp. Patton has pretty much done everything, as many of you can tell. He has collaborated with dozens and dozens of musicians from all genres of music, and has had many side projects for bands, some of which I have not named in this video, because there is quite a lot for both collaborations with other artists and many side projects for bands that he has started. With this vast musical endeavors and constant touring have led him to be considered a workaholic, which is really not surprising. Patton even has provided the monster voices for the 2007 movie I Am Legend, which has Will Smith starring in it, which is quite impressive if you know the fact that he has had 0 vocal training by vocal coaches in his creative career. Speaking of vocals, we will be getting into that right now, along with his influences and his legacy in music. Patton's vocal styles consist of crooning, falsetto, screaming, opera, death growls, rapping, beatboxing, scatting, among other techniques. Patton has an impressive 6 octaves, 1.5 note range, EB1 to E7. Consequence of Sound released an article stating that instead of Axl Rose of Guns N' Roses being the greatest singer of all time, Mike Patton is actually the greatest singer of all time, beating Axl's admirable 5 octaves, 2.5 notes with his 6 octaves, 1.5 note range, EB1 to E7. Critic Greg Prado wrote, Patton could very well be one of the most versatile and talented singers in rock music. Blake Butler called Patton a complete and utter musical visionary and a mind-blowing and standard-warping genius. Of all the bands I have heard Patton sing for so far, Mr. Bungle will be number 1 band that he's been in for, not only for the insane instrumentation and the 3 albums that they released, but that Mr. Bungle shows Patton's vocal abilities to the full extent. In an interview with Kerrang!, Patton reflected on his musical influences, stating, the first music I was probably exposed to was early 70s crap that was on the radio when my parents took me to the supermarket. Styx, Kansas, some shit like that. At that age, I wasn't interested at all in music. I only got into music when I couldn't hang around anyone else. At school, I was a hyper geek and I got hassled from the jocks. I wanted to be one of them. That was the thing. So one of the first songs I got into was collecting old 45s, beginning with the Partridge Family or something. Then I got into death metal and hardcore, anything that was fast, loud, nasty, and retarded. In my early 20s, I had got to the point when I realized all I had played in were rock bands and thought I could do other things with my voice and put it in context that have nothing to do with rock music at all. One of the biggest musical inspirations of Patton would be experimental musician John Zorn, who Patton has collaborated with many times, and Zorn has even produced Mr. Bungle's self-titled debut album. Patton's unique and insane vocal style helped his bands Faith No More and Mr. Bungle become one of the key influential bands for the rising nu metal movement that emerged in the underground metal scene in the mid-90s and by the late 90s to the early 2000s. Nu metal exploded in popularity and became a mainstream genre during that time. Prominent vocalists such as Brandon Boyd, Incubus, Doug Robb, Hoobastank, Daryl Palumbo, Glassjaw, Jacob E. Sadix, Papa Roach, Greg Pachito, the Dillinger Escape Plan, Howard Jones, Killswitch Engage, former Dillinger Escape Plan vocalist Dmitry Minakakis, and Spencer Toledo, Periphery, cite Patton as a primary influence. One cool thing I like to mention to you all that Faith No More is now an active band. It is no longer a disbanded band, and recently Mr. Bungle reunited with Scott Ian of Anthrax and Dave Lombardo of Slayer joining the group and performing, which is pretty cool. I really like Mr. Bungle, and I do like to see them in concert. I know this one guy that I did, I was doing backstage work at this local college of mine, and he'd seen Mr. Bungle perform back in 99 or 2000. It's a pretty cool fact that I came across. Well, that's all I had to say in this video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video and so forth. If you liked this video, I hope you guys like this video, actually like it. Subscribe to my channel and share this video as well. If you guys want to see more videos like this, subscribe, much like I said. I hope you guys have a good day whenever you're watching this, night, day, whatever. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.